Hey, this is Jen from Midnight Sky Fibers, and I'm here today to tell you about single ply yarns. For those of you who don't know me, I run Midnight Sky Fibers, which is a natural dye studio in Seattle, Washington, where I use only natural dyes and non-toxic mordants to make hand-spun and hand-painted yarns, fibers, and kits. So, the difference between a single ply yarn and other yarns is exactly like what it sounds like. It has only one ply. The nice thing about single ply yarns is that you can find all different sorts of them. Everyone from Malabrigo to every hand spinner out there ever makes single ply yarns. Single ply yarns, also called singles or one ply yarns, have the benefit then of being cheaper if you're looking for hand spun yarns, but generally do not hold up as well as a 2 or 3 ply yarn. For bigger projects, especially things like sweaters, where they're going to get a lot of wear. And on the other hand, they're great for felting. So here's another example of a single ply yarn. Both of these are bulky. You can see how they compare. You can see how they can compare to a DK weight yarn, big bulky yarn, and a super bulky yarn compared to the bulky yarn. This one's almost a 1/2 inch thick. Whereas this one's maybe 8 wraps per inch thick, making it getting closer to the super bulky side of bulky yarns. So, what single ply yarns are best for? Single ply yarns are best for projects that are not going to get tons of wear and tear. They are perfect for scarves and hats, especially nice big bulky hand-spun hats that don't use tons of yarn, since hand-spun yarn tends to be a little bit expensive. They also make great lap blankets. What hand-spun yarns are not good for, they're not good for most baby projects, because most hand-spun yarns are not washing machine safe. They will felt, and they are not good for things like slipper socks unless you want them to felt or pill, and you don't mind that. The biggest difference when you're choosing single ply hand spun yarns is you need to look for yarns that are not overly kinked. And by that I mean, see if you can see here how this yarn has sections in it that have a little bit of the extra twist in them. You want to avoid buying yarns that have lots of twist in them, because that's going to bias the fabric and it's going to make it much harder to knit with. You're looking for yarns that have a nice smooth surface to them. They're spun just enough to hold the twist together, but not enough that you're going to get a huge bias in the fabric. You'll get a little bit of it anyways with pretty much every hand spun yarn out there. And you also want a yarn, depending on the type of project that you do, that is either very uniform or very funky. If you're doing something like felting, you don't want to do a yarn that has novelty bits in it or pieces in it for a hand spun yarn that aren't going to felt well or that might fall out in the felting. On the other hand, for most of the projects, just a plain singles yarn can get pretty boring if you're trying to make a very funky hat. And you can find some really great single ply yarns out there that have a lot of interesting doodads added to them, or different stripes or coils even to them, that make for a really interesting yarn. Thanks!